Captain Jake Miller stood on the bridge of the exploration ship New Horizon. The stars looked peaceful through the main window. His crew had been traveling for 3 months, mapping new planets in the outer rim of human space. Everything seemed normal until the sensors started beeping. "Captain, we have something big coming our way," said Lieutenant Amy Brooks from her station. She was the ship's communications officer, a young woman with bright eyes and quick fingers on the controls. Jake walked over to her station. "How big are we talking about?" Amy checked her readings twice before answering. "Sir, it's huge. Maybe 10 times bigger than our ship. And there are more ships behind it." The main screen flickered and showed 3 massive ships approaching. They looked like giant crystals floating in space with strange blue lights running along their surfaces. Jake had never seen anything like them in all his years of space travel. "Are they human ships?" asked Dr. Paul Garcia, the ship's medical officer. He was a calm man who rarely showed fear, but now his voice sounded worried. "No, sir," Amy replied. "These are not from Earth or any of our colonies. I think we just made first contact." The bridge fell silent. Every human had dreamed of this moment, but now that it was happening, it felt scary instead of exciting. Jake took a deep breath and straightened his uniform. "Open a channel," he ordered. The main screen changed, and suddenly they were looking at an alien face. The creature had pale blue skin, large black eyes, and no hair. It wore a silver robe with strange symbols. When it spoke, the words came through in perfect English. "Greetings, humans of the vessel New Horizon. I am High Regent Zixtel of the Vorthak Dominion. We have been watching your species for many years." Jake stepped forward. "I am Captain Jake Miller. This is peaceful contact, I hope." The alien's expression did not change. "That depends on your cooperation, Captain Miller. We have monitored human expansion across this sector of space. Your species shows promise, but also danger. You reproduce quickly and spread across planets without proper guidance. What do you want from us?" Jake asked directly. "Your freedom is now limited," Zixtel said with cold words. "Humanity must produce an heir that combines human and Vorthak genetics. This hybrid child will grow up to guide your species and ensure peace in the galaxy. Until this heir becomes an adult, all human colonies outside your home solar system will remain under our control." Dr. Garcia moved closer to Jake. "That's impossible. Humans and aliens cannot have children together." Zixtal made a sound that might have been laughter. "Dr. Garcia, we know much about human biology. Our scientists have been studying your genetic patterns for decades. The process is not only possible but necessary." Amy's hands were shaking as she kept recording everything. "Captain, I'm getting reports from our other ships. There are alien vessels above New Terra, Kepler Station, and the mining colonies." Jake felt his heart sink. "You've already taken our colonies?" "We have positioned our fleets above your major settlements." Zixtal confirmed. "Your people are safe as long as they cooperate. No harm will come to them if you follow our requirements." Suddenly, all the lights on the bridge went dim. The ship's engines stopped humming. Every system on the New Horizon shut down except for life support and communications. "That was just a small demonstration," the alien explained. "Your weapons and engines are now disabled. We could have destroyed your ship, but we prefer peaceful solutions." Jake clenched his fists. "And if we refuse your demands? Then humanity will remain under our protection permanently. Your colonies will become part of the Vorthak Dominion. Your people will live, but they will never be free to explore space again." Dr. Garcia stepped forward. "Why do you need this hybrid child? What's your real purpose?" Zixtal was quiet for a moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. "Human genetic diversity is remarkable. Your species adapts and survives in ways others cannot. A child with both human and Vorthak traits would be stronger than either parent species." "You mean you want to use us for breeding?" Amy said with anger in her voice. "I mean we want to create a bridge between our civilizations," Zixtal replied. "This child will understand both species and prevent future conflicts." Jake looked around at his crew. They all seemed as shocked as he felt. Humanity had dreamed of meeting aliens, but not like this, not as prisoners. "How long do we have to consider this?" Jake asked. You have 72 hours to return to Earth and deliver our terms to your government, Zixtal said. Our scientists will begin genetic testing on the colonies during this time. We will identify the most suitable candidates for the breeding program. Breeding program? Dr. Garcia repeated. You're talking about people like they're animals. Are talking about the future of your species, the alien corrected. Cooperation will ensure your survival and eventual freedom. Resistance will only bring suffering. The screen showed images of massive alien ships floating above human cities. People on the colonies were going about their daily lives, not knowing they were being watched from space. Your people seem happy and productive under our supervision, Zixtal noted. We do not wish to change their lives more than necessary. We only require their cooperation for the greater good. Jake felt helpless. The alien ships were too powerful, and humanity was not ready for this kind of conflict. What guarantees do we have that you'll keep your word? The Vorthak Dominion has guided 17 other species to peaceful integration over the past 1,000 years, Zixtal explained. Each one initially resisted, but all eventually understood the benefits of our guidance. What happened to those other species? Amy asked quietly. They prospered under our protection. Some even contributed genetic material for previous hybrid programs, though none were as promising as humanity. The alien's words sent chills down Jake's spine. How many other civilizations had faced this same choice? How many had given up their freedom for the promise of protection? I need to discuss this with my crew and my government, Jake said finally. Of course. Your engines will be restored for the journey home. One of our escort vessels will accompany you to ensure you reach Earth safely, Zixtal paused. Captain Miller, understand that this is not a negotiation. This is an opportunity for peaceful transition. The alternative would be far less pleasant for your species. The communication ended, and the alien face disappeared from the screen. Slowly, the ship's systems came back online. Jake could hear the engine starting again, but the sound felt different now. Everything felt different. Amy, send a message to Earth Command, Jake ordered. Tell them we're coming home with urgent news about first contact. What are we going to do, Captain? Dr. Garcia asked. Jake looked out at the alien ships that now surrounded them. We're going to survive this. Somehow, we're going to find a way to stay free. As the New Horizon began its journey back to Earth, the crew knew that humanity's golden age of exploration had just ended. The question now was whether their species would find a way to earn back their freedom, or if they would become just another civilization under alien control. The stars no longer looked peaceful. They looked like the bars of a very large prison. 3 months had passed since Captain Jake Miller returned to Earth with the terrible news. The whole world had changed. President Lisa Carter stood in the White House Situation Room, looking at screens that showed alien ships floating above, human colonies. The Vorthak had kept their promise about not hurting anyone, but their presence made everyone feel like prisoners. The colonies are reporting normal food supplies and power, said General Bob Stone, reading from his tablet. But morale is dropping fast, people are scared. President Carter nodded. What about our ships trying to leave the solar system? All turned back, the general replied. The Vorthak patrol ships won't let anything pass. We're trapped in our own home. Meanwhile, far from Earth in the asteroid belt, Commander Rick Hayes was building humanity's secret weapon. His hidden base was carved inside a large rock, invisible to most scanners. Rick was a former space marine who refused to give up without a fight. Kate, how are the weapon tests going? He asked engineer Kate Wilson. She was working on a strange device that hummed with blue energy. Kate wiped sweat from her forehead. I think we're getting somewhere, Commander. Tom was right about the alien power source. It's not like anything we've seen before. Tom Bradley, their best pilot, floated over in the low gravity. The captured alien technology is weird. It uses some kind of exotic matter that shouldn't exist according to our physics books. Dr. Helen Clark, the team's scientist, looked up from her computer. But that might be their weakness. If we can disrupt the exotic matter, their whole power system could fail. Rick felt hope for the first time in months. How long do we need? Maybe 6 weeks to build enough weapons for a real attack, Kate answered. But we need more alien technology to study. On the colony world of New Terra, things were getting worse every day. Families like the Johnsons and Martins tried to live normal lives, but it was impossible with alien guards watching everything they did. Lisa Johnson was 22 years old and worked at the colony's farming center. Every morning she had to report to the Vorthak medical station for testing. The aliens took blood samples, scanned her body, and asked strange questions about her family history. "They're treating us like breeding animals," she told her friend, Mike Martin, as they walked home from another examination. Mike was angry too. "My little sister cried all night because they took her away for special testing yesterday. She's only 16, this has to stop." The worst part was watching families get separated. The Vorthak scientists had started taking young people to different locations for extended testing. Parents didn't know when they would see their children again. Dr. Paul Garcia was now working on the alien research station orbiting New Terra. He hated helping the Vorthak, but they had made it clear that refusing would mean death for many colonists. Every day he studied human genetic samples and watched the aliens try to understand human reproduction. "Your species is confusing," said Vorthak scientist Kelran during one of their sessions. "Other species reproduce based on biological compatibility alone. Humans seem to require emotional connection." Dr. Garcia tried not to show his interest. "Emotional connection? Yes, our previous experiments with other species were successful because they accepted genetic pairing for the good of their species. Humans resist even when the genetic match is perfect." This gave Dr. Garcia an idea. Maybe the aliens didn't understand humans as well as they thought. Maybe their whole plan was based on a false assumption about how human reproduction worked. Back on Earth, Captain Miller was working with the planet's best minds to find a solution. Dr. Alex Turner, a physicist from MIT, was studying every piece of information they had about Vorthak technology. "Their ships use quantum field manipulation," Dr. Turner explained to the group. "But there might be a way to interfere with their systems." Colonel Nina Ross, a military strategist, was planning multiple scenarios. "Even if we can disable their ships, we need to coordinate attacks on all occupied worlds at the same time. If we hit one colony, they might destroy the others in response." Captain Miller studied the star maps. "What about the resistance cell? In the asteroid belt? Can we contact them safely?" "Commander Hayes has been sending coded messages," Colonel Ross replied. "His team is making progress with weapons development, but they need more time." Dr. Turner made a discovery that shocked everyone. "I've been analyzing the alien communication signals. There's something strange about their population data." "What do you mean?" Captain Miller asked. "The signals suggest their total population is much smaller than they want us to believe. Maybe only a few million individuals across their entire empire." President Carter leaned forward. "Are you saying they're not as powerful as they seem?" "I'm saying they might be desperate," Dr. Turner replied. "A species doesn't risk war with an unknown enemy unless they have no other choice." The breakthrough came when Dr. Garcia managed to send a secret message from the research station. Using a medical scanner, he transmitted a coded signal that only Earth's computers could decode. The message was simple, but shocking. "Vorthak cannot reproduce naturally, need human genetics to survive. They are dying species." When President Carter read the decoded message, everything made sense. The aliens weren't trying to control humanity for power. They were trying to save their own species from extinction. "This changes everything," she said to her advisors. "They need us more than we need them." Captain Miller realized the implications. If they're a dying species, then their whole empire might be falling apart. The other 17 species they mentioned might have been absorbed because their populations were already failing. Colonel Ross was already making new plans. "We could use this information as leverage. They can't afford to destroy us because they need our genetic material." But Dr. Turner had a warning. "This also makes them more dangerous. A dying species with powerful weapons might do anything to survive." The resistance movement began to grow as the truth spread secretly among Earth's leaders. Commander Hayes received new orders to accelerate weapon development. On the colonies, people like Lisa Johnson and Mike Martin started organizing quiet acts of defiance. Dr. Garcia continued his work on the research station, but now he was secretly documenting everything he learned about Vorthak biology and technology. Every day brought new discoveries about their weaknesses. The aliens had made one critical mistake. They assumed that superior technology would be enough to control humanity. They didn't understand that humans fought hardest when they had nothing left to lose. As the third month of occupation ended, both species were preparing for a conflict that neither really wanted. The Vorthak were desperate to save their civilization. Humanity was determined to remain free. The question was no longer whether there would be a fight. The question was who would survive when it was over. In hidden bases and secret meetings across human space, the resistance was growing stronger, every day. Soon they would be ready to show the Vorthak that humanity would not go quietly into captivity. 6 months after the occupation began, Dr. Paul Garcia was working late in the Vorthak research lab on Luna Base. The aliens trusted him now, which was exactly what he wanted. While they slept, he searched through their computer files, looking for information that could help humanity. What he found made his blood run cold. The files showed records of dozens of other species across the galaxy. Each one had faced the same ultimatum as humanity. The Vorthak called it the Integration Protocol. Species after species had been forced to produce hybrid offspring. But the files showed something terrible. None of the original species existed anymore. They didn't just take genetic material, Garcia whispered to himself. They absorbed entire civilizations. The records went back over 1,000 years. 63 different species had been integrated into the Vorthak dominion. Each time the Vorthak promised freedom after the hybrid program was complete. Each time they lied. Meanwhile, on Titan 7 mining station, maintenance worker Bill Adams was fixing air recyclers when he heard voices speaking in the alien language. He didn't understand the words, but the tone sounded like an argument. Bill quietly activated his work recorder and listened. Two Vorthak were having a heated discussion about something called the human problem. When he played the recording for Security Chief Mary Foster later, she contacted the underground network immediately. "We need someone who speaks their language," Mary said over the encrypted communication channel. Dr. Susan Lee, a xenobiologist trapped on New Terra Colony, had been studying Vorthak speech patterns for months. When she heard the recording, she translated the key parts. One alien is saying the human breeding program is taking too long. The other is arguing that forcing the process will make it fail, like it did with something called the Kelleran experiment. This was the first proof that the Vorthak had disagreements among themselves. Not all of them supported the current plan. Commander Rick Hayes received this intelligence at his asteroid base, just as his team achieved a major breakthrough. Engineer Kate Wilson had successfully built a weapon that could disrupt alien power systems. "The quantum disruptor works perfectly," Kate reported with excitement. "Tom tested it on the captured alien probe and the whole thing shut down in seconds." Tom Bradley was grinning. "Their exotic matter power source is stable until you hit it with the right frequency. Then it collapses like a house of cards." Dr. Helen Clark had even better news. "I've been analyzing the communication intercepts. The Vorthak military forces are much smaller than we thought. Most of their ships are automated drones controlled from command vessels." Rick felt hope growing in his chest. "So, if we can take out the command ships, the drone fleets become useless," Helen finished. "But we need to coordinate perfectly. Hit all the command ships at the same time, or they'll adapt their defenses." Back on Earth, Captain Jake Miller was meeting with President Lisa Carter and her advisors. The resistance network had grown across all human colonies, but they needed more information before launching an attack. "Dr. Garcia's reports are troubling," President Carter said, reading the latest intelligence. "If the Vorthak have destroyed 63 civilizations, what makes them think will be different?" Dr. Alex Turner had been studying every piece of data they had collected. "I think I know why they keep failing. Every species they've absorbed was technologically inferior when first contact happened. We're the first species they've encountered that had space travel and advanced science." Colonel Nina Ross agreed. "The other species probably couldn't fight back effectively. We can." Captain Miller had been thinking about the political situation among the Vorthak. What about the internal conflicts Bill and Mary discovered? Maybe we can use those divisions against them. The breakthrough came when Dr. Garcia made contact with a Vorthak scientist named Research Prime Yelthar. Unlike the others, this alien seemed uncomfortable with the forced breeding program. "Your species is different from the others," Yelthar told Garcia during a private conversation. "Previous species accepted genetic pairing as a survival necessity. Humans resist even when logic says they should cooperate." Garcia carefully probed for more information. "What happened to those other species?" Yelthar was quiet for a long time. "They became part of us. Their genetic material was preserved, but their cultures, their independence, and these things were lost." "And you think that's wrong?" "I think survival should not require the destruction of uniqueness," the alien replied. "But I am not in charge of policy." This conversation revealed something crucial. Some Vorthak opposed High Regent Zixtal's methods. Garcia began secretly meeting with other alien scientists who shared Yelthar's doubts. On New Terra, the selected breeding candidates were becoming more organized in their resistance. Lisa Johnson had become an unofficial leader among the young colonists. "They're getting frustrated with us," she told Mike Martin and the others during a secret meeting. "The medical tests show we're genetically compatible, but we won't cooperate emotionally." Mike had learned to read Vorthak body language during his examinations. "I think they're under pressure from their superiors." The lead scientist keeps talking about deadlines and failure rates. Dr. Susan Lee, who had been helping coordinate the colonial resistance, made an important discovery. "I've been studying their behavior patterns. The Vorthak are terrified of failure. Their entire social structure is based on success and genetic perfection." "So what happens if we keep failing their tests?" Lisa asked. "They might give up on the voluntary approach and try something more drastic," Susan warned. "But they might also start looking for other solutions." The resistance network intercepted a communication that changed everything. High Regent Zixtal was being challenged by a military leader called War Commander Drexmore. "The human breeding program has failed," Drexmore's message said. "We should harvest their genetic material by force and be done with it." Zixtal's reply was desperate. "The Council approved this method. We cannot change course without admitting failure. Then the Vorthak Dominion will die with your pride," Drexmore responded. Commander Hayes received this intelligence just as his resistance cells were ready to strike. "It sounds like they're running out of time too," he told his team. Dr. Garcia sent one final message from Luna Base that shocked everyone. He had accessed the deepest Vorthak files and discovered the truth about their dying civilization. Total Vorthak population, 8.7 million across 12 worlds. Birth rate, 0 for the past 50 years. Estimated time to extinction, 15 years, without genetic intervention. President Carter called an emergency meeting when she read the report. "They're not conquerors, they're refugees. Their entire species is dying." Captain Miller understood the implications. "That makes them more dangerous, not less. They have nothing to lose." But Dr. Turner saw an opportunity. "It also means they might be willing to negotiate if we can offer them hope without slavery." The resistance network now had all the pieces of the puzzle. The Vorthak were desperate, divided, and running out of time. Their automated fleets could be disabled with the right weapons. Some of their scientists opposed the forced breeding program. Most importantly, humanity had something the aliens needed: the ability to adapt and survive. The time for hiding and planning was over. Soon, both species would discover whether they could find a solution that didn't require one of them to disappear forever. 1 year after the first alien contact, humanity was ready to fight back. Commander Rick Hayes floated in his command chair at the hidden asteroid base, watching screens that showed resistance cells across human space. Today was the day they called Operation Freedom. "All teams report ready," said engineer Kate Wilson from her weapons station. The quantum disruptors were charged and ready to fire. "Tom, are the fighter squadrons in position?" Rick asked. Tom Bradley checked his flight. "Computers. 12 squadrons hidden behind moons and asteroids around every occupied world. We're ready to strike." On Earth, Captain Jake Miller stood in the Situation Room with President Lisa Carter. They were watching the same countdown timer that every human resistance cell could see. Dr. Turner, are you sure the simultaneous attack will work? President, Carter asked. Dr. Alex Turner nodded confidently. If we hit all their command ships at exactly the same time, their automated fleets will lose coordination. The Vorthak won't be able to adapt their defenses fast enough. The plan was simple but dangerous. At exactly 1200 hours Earth time, every resistance cell would attack the nearest Vorthak command vessel. The quantum disruptors would disable their exotic matter power systems, making the ships vulnerable to conventional weapons. Meanwhile, on Luna Base, Dr. Paul Garcia was preparing for the most dangerous part of his mission. He had to keep High Regent Zixtal distracted during the attack. Regent, I have important news about the breeding program, Garcia said as he entered the alien leader's chamber. Zixtal turned from his viewing screen. What news, Dr. Garcia? We've identified 3 compatible human candidates who are willing to participate. They're ready to begin the process immediately. The alien leader showed the closest thing to excitement that his species could display. Excellent. This will prove to the Council that my methods work. Garcia checked his hidden timer, 15 minutes until the attack began. On New Terra Colony, Lisa Johnson and Mike Martin were leading their own part of the operation. They had spent weeks learning the layout of the alien research facility. Remember, we just need to keep the alien scientists busy until the space battle is over, Lisa whispered to the group of young colonists hiding in the ventilation system. The emergency supplies are hidden in storage room 7, Mike added. If this goes wrong, we might need to hold out for days. Dr. Susan Lee was monitoring alien communications from her hidden position in the colony's medical center. Their security forces are at normal levels. They don't suspect anything. Back in space, the resistance fighters were moving into final position. Tom Bradley led Alpha Squadron toward the main Vorthak command ship orbiting Earth. Through his fighter's window, he could see the massive crystalline vessel that had started this whole crisis. Alpha leader to all squadrons, Tom said into his radio. 2 minutes to attack. Remember, hit the power cores first, then target the weapon systems. Commander Hayes was leading the assault on the primary command vessel himself. His ship carried the most powerful quantum disruptor they had built. Kate, are you getting good readings on their power signature? He asked. Perfect lock, Commander. The exotic matter field is strong and stable. When we hit it with the disruptor, it should collapse. Completely. On the Vorthak command ship, High Regent Zixtal was still talking with Dr. Garcia when alarms suddenly began blaring throughout the vessel. What is happening? Zixtal demanded as his subordinates rushed to their stations. Human attack vessels are approaching all our positions, reported a Vorthak officer. They appeared from hidden locations simultaneously. Zixtal's face showed shock and anger. Impossible. We have been monitoring all human military movements. Dr. Garcia tried to look surprised, but inside he was counting down the seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The first quantum disruptor beam struck the command ship's power core. The exotic matter field that powered the entire vessel flickered and began to collapse. Throughout the ship, lights went out and gravity systems failed. Direct hit on the power core, Kate Wilson reported from the asteroid base. Their main systems are failing. Across human space, the same scene was repeating. Quantum disruptor. Beams were striking Vorthak command ships above every occupied world. The aliens' mighty crystal vessels, which had seemed so powerful and untouchable, were suddenly dark and helpless. Tom Bradley led his fighters in the second wave of attacks. Target their weapon systems while they're down. Don't give them time to recover. The human fighters swarmed around the disabled alien ships like angry insects. Conventional weapons that had been useless against Vorthak shields were now tearing through unprotected hulls, but the aliens weren't giving up without a fight. War Commander Drexmore arrived with military reinforcements, just as the first command ships were being destroyed. Drexmore to all Vorthak forces, his voice boomed across the communication channels. The humans have declared war. Implement total suppression protocol. His warships began moving toward the human colonies, preparing to destroy the settlements rather than lose them. High Regent Zixtal floating in zero gravity on his powerless ship, made a desperate decision. "Garcia, can you contact your people?" "What? Do you want to tell them?" Garcia asked carefully. "I want to negotiate surrender." The words shocked everyone on the bridge. Vorthak officers looked at their leader with confusion and dismay. "The breeding program has failed," Zixtal continued. "War Commander Drexmore will destroy your colonies rather than admit defeat. But perhaps we can find another solution." Garcia activated his emergency communicator. "Dr. Garcia to Earth Command. High Regent Zixtal wants to discuss terms." Captain Miller received the message just as human fighters were engaging Drexmore's military fleet. "Put him through." Zixtal's voice came through the communication system. "Captain Miller, your attack has succeeded. Our command structure is broken. But Drexmore will kill millions of your people before this ends." "What do you propose?" Miller asked. "I have information that can help you defeat Drexmore's forces. In exchange, I want safe passage for any Vorthak who wish to surrender." President Carter made the decision quickly. "Agreed. What information?" "Drexmore's ships use the same exotic matter systems as ours. Your quantum weapons will work against them, but you must strike within the next 10 minutes before he reaches your colonies." The information was passed to all resistance cells immediately. Tom Bradley and his fighters changed course to intercept Drexmore's fleet. "All squadrons, new target," Tom announced. "We're going after the military ships." The battle was fierce but brief. Drexmore's forces were not prepared for quantum disruptors. One by one, their ships lost power and became sitting targets for human fighters. When the last alien warship was disabled, and strange silence fell across human space. On New Terra, Lisa Johnson and her team emerged from the research facility to see alien guards surrendering peacefully. Some Vorthak scientists, led by Research Prime Yelthar, actually seemed relieved that the fighting was over. "What happens now?" Mike Martin asked as they watched human security forces taking control of the alien installations. Dr. Susan Lee had been listening to alien communications. "Some of them want to negotiate. They're offering to share their medical technology in exchange for help with their reproduction problems." The final negotiations took place on a neutral space station built specifically for the purpose. Captain Miller, now promoted to Admiral, represented humanity. High Regent Zixtal, stripped of his authority but still speaking for the peaceful Vorthak, sat across from him. "Our species is dying," Zixtal admitted. "We thought forcing cooperation was the only solution. We were wrong." "Some of our scientists want to help," Admiral Miller replied. "But it has to be voluntary, no more forced breeding programs, no more occupations." Dr. Garcia, who had become the leading expert on both species biology, proposed the final solution. "We can work together on genetic research. Some humans and Vorthak might choose to have children together. But it will be their choice, not a government program." Research Prime Yelthar was enthusiastic about the idea. "Voluntary cooperation could succeed where force failed. Your species' emotional bonds might be the key to successful reproduction." 6 months later, joint research stations were operating throughout human space. Children from both species played together while their parents worked on unlocking the secrets of genetics and consciousness. The hybrid heir that was supposed to ensure human slavery had become a symbol of friendship between two very different civilizations. Humanity had not only won their freedom, but gained new allies in the vast galaxy. Admiral Miller often looked at the mixed families working on the research stations and smiled. The Vorthak had tried to take human freedom, but they had learned something more valuable, that cooperation was always stronger than conquest.